the Hornady Precision Measurement Station, right now on Pirate Firearms and Reloading. Hi folks, welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to take a look at the Hornady Precision Measurement Station. Now just before we get going, if you're not already subscribed, please click down below and subscribe. It helps out the channel immensely and helps support the content that you watch. Really appreciate that. Only 3% of you seem to be subscribed at this stage. So please, it's totally free. Click the subscribe button, hit the bell, toggle it to all, and help support the content you're watching. Right, so this station can do pretty much everything you're going to want to do in terms of measuring cases, projectiles, and completed ammunition. So I'm going to demonstrate today with some lovely 6.5 Creedmoor rounds that I've set up as dummy rounds for training. So I did a video on this the other day. I haven't quite completed these. I'm yet to drill holes and fill the primer pocket, but this is where they're going to end up. Now, what I've got is two different lots of brass. One has been fired in my rifle and the other hasn't. So I'm expecting with this measurement station to pick up some differences. So I'm going to start with one of the really simple measurements to do, and that's headspace. So what we're going to do is insert the appropriate headspace bushing. Now, this measurement station comes with everything you see here, with the exception of this little guy here, and we'll talk about him in a minute. The other thing you're going to need for this station is a 1/8, if that focuses, a 1/8 Allen or hex head of some description. So for 6.5 Creedmoor, we're going to use the 375 bushing, okay? And what you do is you simply invert it upside down and place it inside the right hand measuring spot here. You have one over here on the left, and that is for measuring the ogive of the projectile. So you can measure completed and, you know, just the projectile as well. So we're going to set this one up to measure the headspace of this particular case of 6.5 Creedmoor. Now you'll notice here that you have a ball head on the end of the indicator, on the dial indicator, and that's not really going to work for us. So Hornady have very cleverly included a second head for the micrometer, or indicator I should say, and it conveniently stores right in the center post on the top, and that is a flat base, okay, which is perfect for measuring on the head of the case. Now the next thing to do is raise the indicator and place the cartridge into the indicator and drop the head down. Now we can see that it's not quite aligning perfectly, so I'm just going to shift this just a little bit here. So what I'll say is it takes a minute or two to set up, but once you're all set up, it's really easy to start measuring. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn the bezel around here. So we're going to zero it out. Just like that. It's lined perfectly for me, possibly not for the camera. Now, I'm not actually making contact, so I've got to drop the assembly down a little bit like that. Place my case in for measurement. Just like that, and we'll just zero that out again. Okay, so what I like to do is just raise it and lower it a few times. So there is spring tension on the actual measurement stem, which allows me to get a consistent reading. So that one's basically set at 0. Now I'm going to take one of the ones that I know is oversized and doesn't fit very nicely in my chamber. So that one's essentially on 0. I'm going to take that guy out. And I'm going to place this guy in. And you can immediately see that this one is about 4.5 thousandths oversized. Now this is something to note. This is a 0.5 thousandth accurate dial indicator. The one that comes with the Concentricity tool from Hornady is actually a 1,000th increment. So this one's just a little bit more accurate, and we can see it's about 4.5 thousandths over. So that case is definitely oversized. Now, this is using it as a comparator. You're not actually getting a physical measurement from this. What you're achieving is the difference between the two. A correctly sized case that fits perfectly in a chamber versus one that doesn't. And say, for example, you want to measure base to ogive. You're going to use this side here, and this is where your 1/8 Allen key comes in, because these bushings here are actually secured by a little screw. So as you can see, unlike the Hornady comparator sets that you get for your calipers, these are actually labelled with the diameter of the projectile, so 264 in this case, and they have a little notch in there which allows you to secure it in place. And this is essential to maintain a consistent measurement. Screw that back into place like that, just firmly, doesn't have to be over tightened. And now we need to spin our micrometer set up around. So now I can just gently rotate this into a position where it feels correct and zero it out. So now to compare this to another cartridge, I can then take that case out, and I'm going to get that oversized one again. We're going to place that in there, and we're going to find, as expected, it's longer. Now I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. If you've bought yourself the rimfire kit for measuring rim thickness, this can actually also be used on the space station. Hornady don't explicitly say that you can, but the cool thing is these bushings are the exact same size. And I can drop my rimfire. So that's for 22 LR. Drop that in there, lower this down, lock it in place, zero it out, and now I can place rimfire ammunition in there and measure the rim thickness. Pretty cool, right? And I think this is a lot more consistent, a lot more accurate, and a lot easier to do than the setup with your calipers and the comparator kit. So we'll take that guy back out. Now you're probably wondering about these ball bearings here on the front. So what this allows you to do is measure concentricity. So we set that up with one set of ball bearings as at the rear, of course, with the little stop pin to stop it sliding back any further, and one set as close as we can up to the shoulder without getting inconsistent results. Now what we're going to do is we are going to switch back to the ball head rather than the flat base. So now that I've got this set up in the correct position, I can now measure the concentricity and how much run out I have in the projectile. What I'm simply going to do is apply a little bit of downward pressure here and rotate. And as you can see here, this particular projectile is not very consistent at all. So those are your sort of key measurements you can do. You also have these flat areas here on the station. If I get this guy out of the way. So you could equip the flat base and you could measure diameter of projectiles, you could measure length of projectiles. Sky's the limit, really. The one little gripe I have about this is it's quite hard to actually do measurements as the kit comes. I can't turn around and say to you, you know, my headspace is this. I can only compare a resized case versus a once fired case and things like this, unless you want to do a couple of little upgrades. So I'm going to take you through two minor upgrades, one a little bit more expensive than the other, which really turn this into a fantastic piece of equipment. So this wasn't a terribly expensive digital indicator. There's definitely better ones out there on the market. But I decided a digital indicator would be a lot better, really. So let's just do this measurement again. So what I'm going to do, zero it out here, and we're just going to roll it around. Now this is also capable of half-thou increments. So, oops. So we got about, the highest reading I got there's 4 thou, so I'm just going to zero it. The cool thing about a digital indicator too is it's really easy to reset it to 0, and it doesn't matter whether it's a negative or a positive number, you can still see the difference. So if we start rotating this case, you can see that the run out's growing, 4, 5. So this is the same projectile and case setup. So we've got 5.5 thou of run out, which is about what the Hornady dial indicator gave us. This is just a little bit easier to work with, in my opinion. So we're going to do one final little trick here, and I'm going to show you probably the cheapest upgrade if you want to actually physically measure things. So I'm going to go ahead and raise this guy up. Now I just want to point something out too. If you buy a different indicator, there is actually two common threads. One is metric and one is imperial. I made the mistake of buying a metric digital indicator when the one that Hornady supplies is, of course, imperial. And so the flat base doesn't fit. So because I couldn't find an imperial one, I ended up just purchasing a second flat base in the metric thread. So we'll screw that guy back in there. We're going to go back to measuring headspace again. So I'll spin this guy around real quick, set her up. Okay, so now we're back to measuring headspace, and I've zeroed it out on this good, correctly sized case. The cheapest upgrade comes in. This is what you call a setup block. So they're quite often used on saws and things like that to set up fences and guides so you get correct measurements. So this is a solid block of machined aluminium, and it's 1 inch by 2 inches by 3 inches. So what this now allows me to do, if I want to physically measure the headspace of that case, I can use this block. Now these setup blocks are relatively cheap. I have confirmed this one with a micrometer, and it is 100% accurate. So I'm more than happy. I think these were about 20 or 30 bucks on Amazon. There's a whole lot of different brands. Check the reviews, get a good one. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to place it on the 2-inch side, inside there, and I'm just going to do it a couple of times and make sure it does zero out correctly. Okay, so now I know that is zeroed out at 2 inches. So whatever reading I get from this indicator, I'm going to add 2 inches to. Set this up here, I'm going to drop this down so it's just got a little bit of tension in it. Just like that. Zero it. Check it a couple of times, comes back to 0 perfectly. So now when we put the case in, we just add 1 inch to the measurement. So this case, its base to shoulder or head space measurement is 0.5625. We're going to add the 1 inch to it, so it'll make it 1.562. So it actually allows us to physically measure something. For example, if I wanted to do case overall length or completed ammunition overall length, I'm going to bring this guy over to here. We're going to find a flat spot. Slide this out of the way. Yeah. Slide that down so there's just a bit of tension on it. I'm going to zero it, check for consistency. Good. Make sure there is actually some tension on it. And now we can measure overall length. So this is going to be 2.7885 because we zeroed the indicator off the 2-inch side of this block. So that's the basics of measuring here on the Hornady Precision Measurement Station. It's just a really nice setup. Big, solid cast iron base. Get these really nice adjustable rubber feet with locking rings too, so once you've got it nice and level you can set it up. You do need a fairly small level. I've got this little mini level here, which is great to help me set it up, make sure it is nice and level. That's particularly important if you're measuring things like bullet diameter on the flat surface here. It allows you to get a far superior reading and not having the projectiles try and roll off on you. The other thing to note, whether you have a digital indicator or a dial indicator like Hornady supply with it, it is best if you can have this up at eye level. And so you'll notice this is on a shelf on my new reloading bench, and it brings it up to eye level. It also just keeps it out of the way. It means I can leave it here set up on the reloading bench. I don't have to pull it out every time. And I can be working over on the side at the press and then think, yep, I just want to double check all these, jump straight up here, turn the indicator on, and away you go. The only downside to having a digital indicator, in my opinion, is the fact it runs on batteries. And we all know, if it runs on batteries, it's going to die at the most inconvenient time. So that is the Hornady Precision Measurement Station. They're reasonably expensive, but you can literally do all of your required measurements for reloading with it, and a few that you possibly won't even look at. Thanks, folks. Happy shooting, and catch you in the next one.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on anything. And if you found this video helpful, please share it with your friends. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below. Catch you next time.